This week's episode of Still Untitled is brought to you by LeVar Burton Reads. So many of us learn to love a good story by watching LeVar Burton, host of the wonderful TV show Reading Rainbow. Although you might also know LeVar from his years as Geordi on Star Trek The Next Generation. Well, LeVar has a new podcast that recreates the magic for grown-ups. It's called LeVar Burton Reads. Each episode, LeVar picks one of his favorite short stories, like the great sci-fi story Kin by Bruce McAllister, and reads it to you. Simple. Awesome. I think you'll really enjoy it. Subscribe it to LeVar Burton Reads in Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And thank him for sponsoring this week's show. Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Norm.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Jeremy.
Jeremy Williams.
Jerry, how you doing, man?
Thanks for having me on this show, guys.
Of course.
Is this your first time on this podcast?
It is. It's my first time on the Smart Person Show.
Long-time listener?
Are we kidding? Is that really?
Oh, yeah.
Does that feel weird? That sounds weird
totally
to me.
seems. I'm having a
strong sense memory.
Strong sense that Jeremy must have sat through.
No.
I visualized you sitting here before.
Really? When who
Podcasting.
was sitting here, did you visualize me?
I probably will.
It's like that Bugs Bunny where the guy turns into like a plate of meat or something like that.
No, I've done countless. This is only a test podcast, but
Right.
This is the short one. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and you're here in the cave occasionally, working on, of course, things like the captain's chair.
Yep.
And,
Which,
and
by
other
the way,
projects.
one of the plugs, there's a lead wrong on
No.
it. Yeah, no, we just got it. It's on the left panel here.
Yeah.
The lead is just ever so slightly too short, and for some reason, it slowly works itself away. I might just have to, zip tie it.
You know, one of the voice artists for Adventure Time actually saw the video and asked me to build him an identical electronic situation for his chair.
Nice.
But I'm not sure that's going to happen. But
Why not?
we'll see. Well, it's a trip to LA. It's a lot of work. If there's support issues, I can't come on his podcast and get the support call, right away. So it's
Right.
We'll see. We'll see.
Right.
But it would be a captain's chair.
Yeah.
He
same
has
thing.
a captain's chair already?
They want to build one, and they
They-
want based on your build. Yeah.
Shit.
Well, we should document that. I don't think we did well enough documentation about, this is
Adam's actual build. Yeah.
But it would apply to more than just the captain's chair. If you wanted to have
Integrating electronics requires coordination in the building, in the design, in the execution. There's all sorts of stuff we had to communicate
Sure.
about. And we had a whole system that didn't work at first, right?
That's right. Yeah. Well, that was the beauty of that show. I think is that it did fail. And it failed really well.
Yeah.
Then we went back and saw what was wrong and fixed it.
there are multiple components. The component you're talking about, this guy asking you about, is the cards. So to
Is
refresh
that what
people's
he wants to
memory,
do?
It's the whole thing. But yeah.
But the cards specifically are you have
That was
I
Adam's.
have reed switches, and
Yes.
that is a terrible, terrible way to go. Reed switches are super, super finicky. They're touchy. They fail. We had a failure mode of like 50%
My
of
gosh.
the reed switches, and there's solid state electronics that do this, that can switch a current because of magnetism.
Right. Yeah. Well, and there's pinball machines that are filled with them nowadays.
Yeah.
They all used to be physical switches, and then they moved to optical switches. So that's a possibility too. Is just to put IR holes maybe in the bottom of the card so that it would read that way. Or there's a
what's the smallest form factor card you could make that would still have that magnet inside in a specific location?
It depends on how small the magnet is. I mean, really.
So it can be pretty small.
Yeah, what I've got these cards are a specific size. They're canon to Star Trek.
Right.
And I machined 3 grooves in each one. And in some I have a magnet in one, in some I have a magnet in one of 3 places, and then I have a couple with 2 magnets. I can't even remember.
Yeah, I thought there were 3, and so there was a lot of configurations. I think there were more possibilities than we had cards to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if someone wanted to make a very bootstrap low-end type of electronic prop or something where you put a card in, a door opens, or some animatronic thing happens, they could use this without having to program.
No, the
like
beauty is it
big
looks like a
reader.
regular switch. I mean, I'd never used those switches before. That was Adam's, idea. And
It's me because I was born in the 70s, and I was like, oh yeah, reed switch. I had literally, it's like Will Smith was like, why didn't you use the blankety blank switch? And I know you guys are going to write about it in the
Right.
comments because I can't remember because I'm old, but
no, the
solid
beautiful
state.
thing is, like, nowadays anybody can make Arduino code because it's also accessible, and it just, you look for a change in a pin. It looks like a switch, whether it's a leaf switch or a reed switch or whatever you want.
I have an idea for your Adventure Time chair build.
Oh, yeah.
We could try doing it with something like Little Bits, which
Yep.
really ought to be able to handle
Yeah.
such a relative. It's just a relatively simple thing. It was like 19 switches or something like
Right.
that. 16 switches total.
And then you have interchangeable parts. Maintenance
we
is
have a
super
bunch of sound
easy.
files,
It really is
yeah.
plug and play. Yeah, take something off the shelf, adapt it. It's all hidden behind the prop anyway. Doesn't matter what's behind
Yep.
there.
We could just put a laptop back there.
Now that's the real old school brute force method. Putting a laptop behind everything. Oh, I have an old laptop, and then that's just a waste of power.
Well, I mean, one of my dream props is the Voight-Kampff machine from Blade Runner. And if you can see some of the behind-the-scenes photos of the crafts people and tech people working on the Voight-Kampff machine, which had 3 different monitors, which in the 1979, 1980, these were done with tiny CRT monitors.
Right.
Which required all this signal input and all these electronics in order to be able to take that signal and turn it into an image.
Same with the scanner in Aliens. Mm-hmm. Right. The proximity scanner.
Yeah, which I don't know if Ed ever. Am I right about this? Did it not ever quite work practically?
It was always the electronics went away from it, and it was like a
Right,
separate unit.
Right. So you were looking at a close-up special
Yes.
second unit
Yes.
version with a boom.
It couldn't be that small.
Right, but now it can.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Now there are people that build that. There are people that have built functioning.
Yeah. Like actually scanned.
Functioning motion sensors into their
That's great.
Aliens motion
We've
tracker.
been rewatching Star Trek Next Generation in my household because my 10-year-old is now interested in this. And it's so cool to see all their displays in the earlier seasons because none of them are actual displays. It's just
Right.
like plastic with some moving, filters behind them that reveal light in various ways. And
Yeah.
it just creates an effect.
Is this original series or next gen?
Next gen.
Next gen.
And then
yeah,
you finally
even-
get to season 5 and they start to have real displays. And I'm like, ooh, like that's a real CRT display that they put back there.
Right.
It's just neat to see, like what you're saying. Now you could do anything you want.
I will tell you that on the set of The Expanse, in the spaceship I was in the season finale, because we haven't really talked about this on the podcast. I was in the season finale. I played a technician who dies in the vacuum of space, and the set was the spaceship set. We had all these monitors, and every single one had buttons that you could push that did stuff.
They did.
No, everything.
Wow.
Everything in the set was. Have I already told you this story?
No.
You're smiling indulgently like I've told the story twice
this is
before.
great. Yeah, because that's a unnecessary aspect of production design. It's like a makeup artist, programming LEDs to blink Morse code or something.
Right.
But it's like it totally, because it's almost easier to make it functional and it adds to the performance.
It totally adds to the performance. So Ridley Scott said that when they kludged together all the interior of the Nostromo for Alien, the actors totally got into it because every switch lit something.
Yeah.
And they're all like, ooh, this is...
That's
And,
cool.
and that's totally the case. And so on this set, I was watching me and all the other actors being like, oh, and the director would be like, fiddle with this pad and then turn and fiddle with that pad. And you'd be like, oh, you get your own routine. And be like, I'll do A, B, C here, and then I'll do D and
Yeah.
E here, and then I'll come back to number 2.
That's what Galaxy Quest
it's
is all about.
Exactly. I remember the helm, whoever was flying.
Yeah,
they said,
Laredo.
no, I remember. I had a whole system involved where I hit this
Right?
button and
The
then this
aliens
button.
had programmed the real ship based on his acting movements
Yeah.
of that ship, and even like in helmets, we're talking about even like in the Alien Covenant helmets.
Yeah.
FBFX putting in monitors and LCDs in there. Yes, it's for ambient light, but also it helps immerse the actors into the character.
In the Prometheus helmets, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think 11 working animated screens in the Prometheus costumes.
Yeah,
Those are awesome.
They're incredible.
you can go and deep dive into fake UI for film, even modern day films, relatively modern day, like near future films. At the exhibit we went to in the UK, the science fiction exhibit, they had, I don't know if you saw this, one station that had just the on-screen graphics for The Martian.
Oh, no, I
And,
missed that.
They had the NASA Mission Control, their fake version of NASA
Yeah.
Mission Control, and this was explained how on set, the people at the stations at like Capcom, well, they weren't actually pressing the buttons. They didn't wire that up, but you have an AV team with a separate director in their ears, and saying, "Okay,
Feeding
Jeff
the correct
Bridges
stuff.
is about to say this line. Give me motion graphic 2 and 3."
Right.
And then they press the button, and then with the line, the screen image changed.
Wait, Jeff Bridges?
Or sorry, Jeff Daniels.
I was going to say, Jeff Bridges is not in The Martian.
Jeff Daniels. Yes, he's
I
in,
missed
he's in
that.
The Martian. Jeremy, the reason, or I'm not sure why the reason I in my memory,
Yeah.
that you've been on this podcast for, but that effect is very real.
I was
the
thinking
Mandela
that's a
effect.
good-
You've been
Yeah.
referring
Yeah.
to this recently. Can you refresh my memory? What is the Mandela Effect?
So I believe culturally it's attributed to the fact that many people in their collective memory thought there was a news report that Nelson Mandela died.
No. Yes. There's a large number of people who believe they distinctly remember when they heard that Nelson Mandela died on Baffin Island, where he was in prison for 27 years.
Right. When, of course, he didn't.
He did not. He ended up becoming the president of South Africa, and all the wonderful stuff, winning the Nobel Prize, all the stuff he did after he got out.
Yes.
But there's many other phenomena like this, like the Berenstain Bears, which I grew up with, which turns out to be spelled the Berenstain Bears.
The spelling of Fruit Loops.
FROOT.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yes, that is correct.
But I was second guessing myself there.
Does Kit Kat have a hyphen?
Visualize a Kit Kat bar.
If I'm having to type it out, I'm going to type it with a hyphen.
Exactly.
Does it have a hyphen?
No
There's
hyphen.
No hyphen.
No.
But you can see the packaging with the hyphen.
Yeah.
Your brain fills in the blanks.
So I remember reading about the Berenstain Bears as a thing and being like, wow, no, I really do remember saying as a kid, Berenstain Bears, Bears. And just like it should have been spelled EIN like any other Bernstein. But it's not. There's an A there.
And you can Google all of these, like this list of things. Most famously, recently, of course, was Sinbad, the comedian, and people believing that there was a movie he starred in the 90s called Kazam.
But they're mistaking that for the Shaq movie, where
Shaq
Shaq
movie.
played a genie called Shazam.
That's right. And they found the source of this collective memory, which was that Sinbad at one point hosted a TV marathon of movies, and he was dressed like a genie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, so
that.
there's like a fairly strong cultural marker for remembering it in a certain way.
Wasn't purely invented.
And also, people would deduce like his name is Sinbad, and so it's evoking Sinbad and the Voyage of the Seven Seas, and that's the clothing could be very genie-like.
Right.
And so, but the reason it ties to this podcast is, did we talk about it last week? Oh, no, the video we released. So I broke my camera lens filter again. And Adam, we shot a video.
And let's just be clear, like most photographers, Norm has a frangible, has a clear glass covering on the front of his expensive lenses as a what you call it, an ablative, a protective barrier, so that if he drops the lens, that's what shatters, not the front element of the actual lens.
And it's a UV filter. You can put multiple filters, and unlike most photographers, I don't use a camera strap.
Right.
So I don't put a strap around my chest or my hand. And I dropped the camera, broke the filter, brought it to Adam. We shot a video with Adam fixing the lens. And you took it to a bandsaw, the filter.
Well, so we first tried this wrench that I thought was meant for removing filters, but it's actually meant for re-rounding the threads for it. And when that didn't work, because this entire thing had happened before, a few months ago, when you got the Mark IV, am I right?
Yes, the Canon 5D.
You got the 5D Mark IV. The first day you had it, there was a little slip, and you dropped it, and it shattered the filter. You couldn't get the filter off an expensive lens, and I took it by myself. I didn't want to film this because I didn't want the pressure, but I took it by myself, and on the bandsaw.
Well, we tried. I think we tried. We talked about this in a previous podcast, but we tried unscrewing it. You tried all these ways.
I tried chain clamps. I tried strap clamps. I tried oil changer clamps, wrenches.
And you said, leave it with me.
Leave it with. I
And we
needed some
left.
quiet time.
And I came back, and you said, "Oh, I fixed it. I got the filter off." And then you told the story of how you took it to a bandsaw.
So Norm, you contorted into a sort of a question mark where you were almost hovering off your chair at the thought, because I had to take this camera lens to the bandsaw to notch both sides of the lens without actually messing up your expensive lens, and I did it. Well, so then you dropped the camera. This is like a year and a half ago.
6 months ago. Yeah,
6
a
months
while
ago.
Yes, absolutely.
So then you dropped this. You had the same thing happen again. This time, confident that I knew I could do this, I again took it to the bandsaw and notched it. We covered it on Tested, but there was a whole bunch of commentary in the thread.
Yes, and people were posting in the comments of the video, I've seen this. This is a video I've seen before, to the point where people on Twitter were saying they had vividly remembered the thumbnail of the video, which was the thumbnail is the lens going into the bandsaw.
Oh.
And
Because they would have seen a photo of your cracked lens 6 months
yes,
ago,
so
but
the
that's
photo,
it.
absolutely. The
Yeah.
only documentation happened with a photo of the cracked lens and of the storytelling that you did on
And
Still
so
Untitled.
vivid was my storytelling, so evocative,
People are
so
convinced.
colorful.
I talked to Will yesterday, and he's convinced that he was in the room with you when you used the bandsaw, and I do not believe he was.
I don't think anyone was.
No, you
I
were by
literally-
yourself.
So there is a class of problem solving, and that involves like you can't have anyone else around.
Yeah.
Or
You
cameras on.
Yeah, you just have to go into your head and be like, do I have what it takes to do this thing in this way? And you just need to like shut out all the noise. And I don't think anyone was in this building when I notched it.
Yeah.
And yet
people,
such are my powers of storytelling.
it's amazing. People were absolutely convinced, and I think one way they tried to justify it was they think that there was a similar reaction that Michael Stevens had when you did the video with him when you tweaked his glasses to put the microphone in.
Oh, and I was dremeling, and people found
yes.
it awful to watch me dremel close to glasses lenses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
I just want to
conflating
know,
that.
how do you know where to stop? I mean, watching you do that on the bandsaw, there's no margin of error. I mean, you won't
There's
cut.
there's like 50 thou margin of error. That's 10 sheets of paper, man. That's a veritable canyon.
I mean, but you don't want to hit the lens, so
No.
you go through enough metal. Is there some left over that you just have to rip apart?
No. All I need to do, all I need mechanically is a notch. There's two notches on the lens, 180 degrees opposite each other, thick enough for a piece of aluminum that's like
Right.
That's like probably 80 thou.
I got it.
Right, and so then I know that aluminum is strong enough to use as a wrench, and I need enough material on either side of the fully hardened alloy. What do you call it? Ring of the filter that is also anodized, so it's very rigid. And if I'm 180 degrees offset, I'm balancing the load. So then it's just a matter of holding on to the lens carefully, which is better with hands than any vice. So yeah, if you saw, there wasn't zero margin of error. There literally was like the thickness of a paper match, which from a machining standpoint is like scads. And I can go very...
I'd forgotten. So I was imagining you were actually cutting it off.
Oh,
right?
no.
But what you do is you create two notches to put a larger piece of metal
to
in, so
get
you
a
can
better
torque
mechanical
it.
advantage.
Got it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
works.
pulling it off like a scope ring or any other.
Right.
There's watches use this type of wrench. But there is a much more exciting explanation than cultural false memory for the Mandela Effect.
Which is?
Which is that it's caused by anomalies created by experiments in the Large Hadron Collider.
Oh, this is the conspiracy
The
theory.
glitch in the
This is a
Matrix.
conspiracy theory. It's my favorite
Glimpse-
conspiracy theory.
Glimpses into the alternate realities. I want to believe that.
So this is one of the theories of time, that for every A, B that there could be for a universe, there are infinite numbers of universes that create from every moment, with every possibility being pushed forward, and that the Large Hadron Collider is somehow affecting the fabric of space-time in such a degree as to fold it perhaps, or jump our tracks to one of our close by realities. And in this reality, it turns out that it was the Berenstain Bears when I was a kid, and I have some residual quantum memory of this through the fabric of space-time, when in fact now it's the Berenstain Bears.
If this is true, it must be happening all the time, but only with significant events, cultural events, like Nelson Mandela dying
But
or
we
not
only
dying.
notice with
that we
significant...
notice.
Right,
exactly.
right.
And your
'Cause
lens.
It could
Yes.
just be my dad misplaced his glasses, and then
It's the
Large
origin.
Hadron Collider.
It's the origin of did you leave the oven on? And, your excuses in some alternate reality, I didn't.
In no alternate reality, however, is the movie A Great Wall. Is it A Great Wall or
The Great Wall?
The Great Wall. In no alternate reality is the movie The Great Wall an amazingly great movie.
Oh my goodness!
But it is a movie that both Norm and I have watched in its entirety recently.
Where do you watch this movie now? It's not in the theaters.
No, on
I
demand.
watched it in a hotel in England.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Or it could have been Seattle. I can't remember.
I'm curious, Adam. Why did you watch this movie? Because I've told people recently I saw The Great Wall and it's terrible, and
People are like, what?
why
what
would
did
you watch
think
that?
You were getting into?
Right? Did you watch it in theaters?
Oh,
No, then why?
I once ran into a guy at a party just after Con Air came out, and he went, "I saw that piece of shit. Oh, it's terrible." And I said, quite honestly, what I say, I've said this on the podcast before. I've told this story, but I said, what did you think you were getting into? I'm sorry, but Con Air delivered precisely what it promised in the trailers.
And one
there
of our
was
listeners,
no mystery. And The Great Wall, really, what you saw in the trailer, if you were like, that's precisely what that is. The movie is exactly what you think you're going to get from watching the trailers.
Yeah, to cap an end to that Con Air story, one of our listeners was the visual effects supervisor on that film, so has reached out and every film. The reason I watched The Great Wall, because I had an extra 2 hours, and I know that really talented people work behind the scenes of that film, and I wanted to appreciate their work.
Also, look, I wanted to. There's been a lot of important debate about the casting of people of color in Hollywood, consistently taking white actors and turning them Japanese, like Scarlett Johansson in Ghost in the Shell, or not even turning Japanese, but changing the plot of Japanese stories to fit white actors. And these are important debates to have. And this came up with Matt Damon starring in The Great Wall,
Which is not an American film.
It's not
This
an
is
American film.
Chinese
It's a
film.
Chinese film with American. So what's been going on over the past, I'm not exactly sure how long, 10, 15 years, is that China's film community of investors has started to really join up with Hollywood. And so there's a lot more, you'll see a lot more Chinese companies listed in the opening producer credits of big movies. There's a lot of money coming from China. There's a lot of cross-pollination. And it struck me that The Great Wall was this sort of key moment of a huge Chinese production starring an A-list major American actor. I wasn't sure whether this was whitewashing or an attempt to join two cultures through a film.
It's an interesting take on that exchange, that cultural exchange, because the way we typically think of it is that there's an American film made in the Hollywood studio system that maybe has some foreign investment, and for that movie to be successful overseas, then they put in a token character, and it happens so often. Token casting.
There's a theory online that I've read that the length of the scenes in The Martian about the Chinese help with getting help to Matt Damon had to do with Chinese money for the Martian film.
It portrayed the country in a very national good light.
There's also cases in which American films are edited differently with extra storylines added for release in China.
In Iron Man 3, for example, they had a whole subplot where the arc reactor being removed from Tony Stark's body, which is just a mention in the epilogue of the film, is a full scene because it's an Asian doctor. He does it in China and again shows off their talents and fulfills that obligation.
But
so this is sorry, go ahead.
This movie was made for the Chinese audience, do you think?
It was made for both. So I think it was done within the Chinese film industry. It had almost 99% Asian actors, Chinese actors, but they spoke a mixture of Mandarin and English, not dubbed. So
it's a peculiar movie.
And the stars of the film, it's there's no denying Matt Damon is the star of the film. He is the hero of the story.
Right.
Speaking English exclusively.
With the Chinese actors. And look, I just thought, I'm in a hotel room in Seattle. I can't sleep. and I'm scrolling through the movies and I'm thinking, what do I have energy for, right? So there was like a lot of emotional movies, and I'm there. I'm like, I'm away from home. I don't want to watch something that's going to make me sad about the world. I need some escapism, and I don't want to watch another Jason Sudeikis comedy. So, which
as much
seems
as I
to
like those,
as good as those are, I decided, let's watch this. And again, for all these reasons, I'm interested in the cultural exchange.
Yeah.
You know, I've always loved the idea that the American Western sort of died in America, went to Japan, became a whole different genre under Akira Kurosawa, paying homage to it and making it grow up, and then it goes to Italy, where Sergio Leone brings it back to America through it. So this idea of cultures moving and appropriating in an artistically reasonable way parts of each other's culture that help us frame ourselves and understand ourselves. And again, I say this understanding that the debate about what is proper cultural appropriation and what is I can't remember the actual term of art right now, is an important debate, and it's a reasonable debate to be having with all of this. And I wanted to see how the Great Wall did it.
Yep. Well,
and the answer is easily. This is a whole long way of talking important politics to get around to say this is a fantastically giant production that is super cheesy.
It feels like a movie made by committee. And you would like when you on paper, if you give me Crouching Tiger with the cultural exchange, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. But this is not Crouching Tiger.
Is Matt Damon okay? I mean, is
No,
he sort of
he's-
like? Oh no.
His accent, his weird
really
accent.
weird. It goes in and out.
Yeah. He's terrible.
Everyone in it's earnest. Everyone in it's working really hard. And I mean, because it's a Chinese production, it's like when there's 10,000 extras, there's 10,000 extras. This is like, it is, the battle scenes are incredible. The costumes are amazing. The sets are gorgeous. The monsters are okay.
No, okay. Yes, okay.
Wait a minute. You mentioned Crouching Tiger. I wanted to derail for a second and talk about the sequel to Crouching Tiger.
Which is another example of that very thing happening.
And
the Netflix-funded sequel, which is all in English.
is all in English. It
Yeah.
stars Michelle Yeoh.
Who was in the first one. It's a movie that could not have existed if not for the actors and their bilingual talents.
Right.
And it's Donnie Yen.
Donnie Yen.
Mm-hmm.
Is Ang Lee involved?
No.
No. And here's the thing about it that's really interesting, because I watched it. I'm a huge fan of Crouching Tiger. I mean, when Crouching Tiger came out, my best friend and I got on the phone, and he's like, "What did you think?" And I was like, "Shoot, man, one of my top 5 just got bumped."
Wow.
Like, that's how much I love that movie. And I watched it again recently, and it is still a masterpiece.
It was one of the first movies I saw in IMAX, even though it wasn't an IMAX film. They put it on the IMAX film
was
on
so
the screen.
good.
Remember?
So the sequel, which is called
I don't remember. Sword of Destiny.
Sword of Destiny, and it's
pulled out of the hat.
done. That was because you were like, I don't know. Oh, actually, I do. The sequel, Sword of Destiny, is 10 minutes in. If you loved Crouching Tiger, 10 minutes into Sword of Destiny, you'll be like, I don't know about this movie, but I'm here to say, Sword of Destiny is really lovely. It's not as technically amazing as Crouching Tiger. It doesn't include such transcendent moments as the sword fight in the bamboo forest, in the trees of the bamboo forest, or things like that. But it has a lovely heart, and Donnie Yen and Michelle Yeoh do a tremendous job at bringing in a fabulously complex relationship, unfulfilled relationship into the core of this film, and I really, really liked it. I found that it hit its emotional moments, even as it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't as technically masterfully put together as Crouching Tiger.
I would expect that a movie like that, probably done on a stricter budget. Who knows? Netflix has, their own banks probably, but that it would be done using a lot more computers than the originally used wires.
There's
is
a
that
famous
true?
scene in the trailer for the new one where you can tell it's not great computer animation.
Okay.
It just loses the gracefulness.
Yeah.
There's also, look, culturally, there's, in both films, the Great Wall and Sword of Destiny, there are aspects of the fight scenes that I find mystifying. That I don't think it's because that was poorly done. I think culturally, there's a visual language to fight scenes that Chinese audiences expect and have grown up with and thus are conversant with that make no sense to a Western audience and vice versa.
Right.
So
And maybe they're more forgiving. The uncanny valley of special effects when you have the rag doll jumping around. I think Western audiences are way less forgiving with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've seen Hero though.
Hero.
Hero.
Yes.
Okay.
That's Jet Li.
Yes. Yes.
And that is the director of. God, he's done a bunch of really, really beautiful movies with huge amounts of CG, incredibly well weaved into the visual plot. Hero is the one that has that epic fight between Jet Li and Donnie Yen.
Absolutely,
in which
in the
the entire fight happens in their minds before they fight.
Yeah.
Oh, and they show it.
They
show
it.
the full fight, but the story is that it happens in their minds between a drop of water. As water is falling. Yeah.
It's so well done. It's so beautiful.
That's my recommendation if you haven't seen. If you haven't seen it,
If you're looking for an inroad into Chinese cinema, so is it? Yeah, all of that director's films, and Hero is not the first one.
I'm digging it up right now.
His first big American release was Norm.
Oh my God. Nope, I got nothing. Oh, you know what? Okay, the reason I bring it up, the director of Hero, Zhang Yimou,
Yes.
he directed The Great Wall.
Oh,
This is why I'm bringing it up.
okay, right. Because so Zhang Yimou, what was his first big movie in the U.S.? It's like
He did To Live. Did you see that movie?
No.
Oh, it's a Cultural Revolution movie.
Oh,
House
no.
of Flying Daggers.
House of Flying Daggers. I knew there was something flying in the title. House of Flying Daggers is also really beautiful and has some, again, really sophisticatedly graphic. What do you call this? It has wonderful use of CG in a very graphic and mannerist style. So that, like, two people will be fighting in a room where rose petals are falling at this constant rate.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. The color almost takes over your critical physics brain in some of these
the
cases.
cinematographer that he's worked with is a Western guy.
Is it?
He's not Asian. Yeah.
It's not the Australian guy.
It is.
It's the Australian guy that shoots for Wong Kar-wai.
I believe so.
Because there's like the again, his name escapes me, but there's this Aussie DP
Christopher Doyle,
who works with Wong Kar-wai. And if you don't know who Wong Kar-wai is, just any one of his movies, but In the Mood for Love is one of the few movies I've ever seen in which watching it made me realize I didn't know anything about
movies. He did In the Mood for Love. He did Hero 2046.
Yeah.
And his collaboration with those directors makes those movies great. Yeah. The reason I didn't remember, and I brought up Hero because I knew there was a connection there. But Hero and The Great Wall, same director.
Same director.
It blows my mind. And one is amazing and one is a little bit forgettable.
One is, yeah.
Quickly on the subject of martial arts, I don't know.
Yes.
Have you guys watched the trailer for The Foreigner?
No.
It's the new Jackie Chan movie.
No, I haven't, but I'm really excited about it.
Now, when I say Jackie Chan, you could probably have a certain impression.
Yeah, no, I think of Jackie Chan as Buster Keaton level comedy
Exactly.
type fighting,
Yeah.
and apparently this is really serious and dark.
Perfectly said.
If you watch the trailer, the brief for the scriptwriter was like, write me a movie in which Jackie Chan is sad and never smiles the entire movie.
And the dude was too old to do his own stunts 15 years ago, and he's still doing them like a champion.
And he looks just sullen and
But
depressed.
this is not a movie you go to see in that same Buster Keaton style to see him do his own stunts, despite the fact that he does them.
This is Taken.
Yeah, it is. It's his.
He does the old man, the retired,
Right.
old ex-special forces agent
to avenge the death
to
of his
avenge
daughter.
the death.
So I caught part of that trailer and I stopped because I was like, oh, I want to see this movie and I don't
Right
want
on.
to know a damn thing.
Yeah, and
So-
it is the director of Casino Royale who's using that one.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Casino Royale is
Goldeneye.
still the best of the Daniel Craig Bond films.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Spectre is up there.
Spectre is up there. Roger Deakins is I love him. And he's one of the best DPs going today. I'm super excited about Blade Runner because of him. But I think and look, I say that also knowing that the poker game in Casino Royale, and I've probably said this before, is so
absurd.
abysmally terrible. My plan is, what's your plan? My plan is to get the best hand when everyone else thinks they have the best hand. Oh, really? Yes. And then I'll get them to bet all their money, but I'll win. Oh, that's your plan.
And it was written in the height of the poker craze, and yet the hands they eventually reveal are absurd. It's like the infinite.
It's like, I've got a full house. I've got a bigger full house. I've got 4 of a kind. I've got a straight flush. I've got a royal straight flush. Oh my! Like
I wish someone has done the math
The odds.
on the odds of everyone getting.
It's so astronomically out of any range of possibility.
So, Adam, I need some parenting advice from you. Where do you start with Bond films with your kids? What do you think is the first film I should introduce?
Wow, that's a really good question. So, how old are yours?
10 and 7. So we'll start with the 10-year-old.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could start with the early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Doctor?
Doctor No? No. I mean, no, don't start with those movies.
I mean, if you want to teach your kids some really good sexist, semi-rapey,
Okay,
Roger Moore.
male-female relationships, Dude,
which is
the movie in which Sean Connery does the whole yes, and the woman's like no, and he's like yes.
I think it's Thunderball.
It's a horrifying.
So
But
the question
that-
is, how early do you want? I think the answer is if you want to introduce Bond to them as early as possible, as young as possible.
Right. You gotta
I
go
think
later.
You do the more GoldenEye type ones.
oh God,
I know, which are not
can we
great.
just forget the whole Pierce Brosnan?
Exactly.
That whole period.
But if you want to do it appropriately so they appreciate
Right.
the filmmaking, then you got to wait later till they're old enough and then go back to From Russia with Love.
I don't know if they have to be older than 10 to enjoy Russia with Love. I mean, there's all the wonderful gadgets. Dr. No, Goldfinger, and From Russia with Love are all really good for gadgets and toys and good chases and like fine, semi-cheesy fights. But Connery is really great.
Don't show them any of the 80s ones.
Don't show them any Roger Moore until they're a little older and they can appreciate the cheeseballness of Roger Moore.
And Dalton much later, because you need the context. You need to have Connery before you have
Shit,
Dalton.
you could do a whole experiment. You could start them on Lazenby.
That's the best one of that era. It's one of my favorites.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yes. The only one he did. Only one he breaks the fourth wall.
Does he really?
In the opening scene, he chases a woman down the beach. She rejects him, and he turns to the camera. He goes, "Well, that didn't happen to the other guy. That never happened to the other guy." Like a full-on acknowledgement that he was a new Bond. And that one had an amazing production design. Oh my God, from the guy who did Strangelove. And
Yes, Ken
yes.
Adams.
Ken Adams, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Did Dr. Strangelove did so many important Bond films, including Moonraker, and Ken Adams is an absolute giant. And those big sets like the War Room with its strangely slanted ceiling, that is all Ken Adams' brilliance. And there's a wonderful large coffee table book of Ken Adams' production design, and it's really worth seeing because it's astounding to see how much. What?
It's out of print.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's expensive.
It's astounding to see how much he communicates in his early drawings of a set with so few lines.
Yeah.
And then you see the final set and you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what he drew. And yet this guy's like, it's like cocktail napkin, impressionist Picasso, like swaths of a pen. And yet you see the physical forms that he's communicating. Ken Adams is a giant.
Production design or productions today could not produce in the same way he did. Like when he draws those war rooms, they are massive in scale. They are like, it's the interior of the volcano base. Like that is his design. In the Lazenby, when all the double O's are around their big round table with the tall chairs behind them, like you don't see that in like Kingsman at all. They put that in a boardroom.
What maybe with the Bond thing, maybe you also introduce, you can pepper in all these Bond tenets like the Bourne films and Archer. You can play around with helping them understand the full range of how our culture has responded to and adopted and infused itself with James Bond.
Oh gosh, you could do that with so many of these essential tropes like the Space Marine.
Yep.
You know, you start with aliens, and then you have this list of 2 dozen movies that follow in its footsteps that establish that type of combining science fiction and Vietnam.
The Verhoeven
Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
I haven't watched Starship Troopers in 20 years. I think it's about time.
I'm not in the Starship Trooper fan brigade. I
Holds
don't.
up.
I don't know. Maybe I won't be invited back.
No.
But-
So what I remember is, as a friend of mine pointed out, quite rightfully, is it's an absurd story.
It's satire. It's black.
And the movie goes at the satire with great seriousness. And whenever the parts of the script are super absurd, the movie just doubles down. And it's like, these aren't absurd. This is how it works.
Yeah.
Earnestness.
Yeah.
The heroes are fascists.
And it makes it kind of amazing.
I gotta watch it again. I saw it once. I said this is stupid. I didn't get how self-referential it probably was.
The movie works on so many levels. I remember watching as a kid in middle school and being the first rated R film, one of the first rated R films I saw, and loving it, not realizing that I was loving the satire. You watch it now, realizing it's satire, and it's deep.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it really is. It really is. Did we have one other topic we wanted to cover here?
I don't know. We've covered.
We've covered a fair swath. The Great Wall. Yeah. No, I think. So I also messed up a couple times. I showed my kids American Werewolf when I thought they could take it, and they couldn't.
How young?
They keep lambasting me about this. I think they were like just under 10 or
Okay.
10,
Yeah.
right around
Yeah.
10.
That's when I saw The Shining, and that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But sometimes you want them to have that visceral.
Oh, yeah.
You want to give them the trauma that you had, because.
But they had also seen The Thing by that age.
Oh.
But The Thing is wonderful horror and body horror at that. But it's not as like as The Fly. The Fly, he's pulling his fingernails off in the sink in close up. It's my kids were like, "Holy shit, this is terrible! This is awful." And American Werewolf is still not only side-splittingly hilarious, but genuinely scary. And the dream sequences with the Nazi stormtroopers shooting and killing everybody is horrifying.
Yeah.
And that's where we had to turn it off.
Oh, you didn't make it.
My boys have still not watched American Werewolf, and every time I bring it up, they're like, "You asshole! You showed it to us when we were too young."
But then they get the satisfaction now of watching it when they're older and overcoming their fears.
Yeah.
And that's a great feeling. Like, I love watching these movies now. Even a movie like Superman 4, where the woman turns into a robot. Like,
God, I don't know that I've ever seen. Is this the one with Richard Pryor?
It is the Richard Pryor one.
That was 3.
I think that was
That was
3.
Superman
Was 3?
3. Yeah, because I loved that as an 8-year-old.
But yeah,
The
there's
stuff you'll tolerate as a child.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's as good place as
I
any.
think that's
to end. We went
yeah.
wide ranging there.
Love to hear your guys' thoughts on the proper way to introduce a 10-year-old to the James Bond canon and the ways in which to give them the widest cultural scope. Because Bond is important to us culturally.
Indeed.
Not necessarily for all the right reasons. Not necessarily for the reasons they intended even at the time, but it should be understood.
It opens up the entire spy movie genre.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And video games.
I mean, have you ever seen The Spy Who Came in from the Cold?
No.
With Richard Burton. It's from a John le Carré novel, and it's one of the darkest spy movies. Really, really hard to take and really bleak in its outlook and execution. An amazing film. But, le Carré was kind of writing the antithesis of what Fleming was.
Well, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And thank you, Jeremy, for joining us.
Thank you,
my
Jeremy,
pleasure.
for joining us again.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
This was Jeremy's first appearance on Still Untitled.
All right. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks again to LeVar Burton Reads, the new podcast where LeVar picks his favorite short stories and reads them to you. Subscribe to LeVar Burton Reads in Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And thank you guys for listening. See you next week.